Because there is no way Karen was traveling 40 miles an hour in reverse in a snowstorm. Nothing. Nothing. Doesn't he make Welcher appear like a complete and utter joke? Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to Buckle Up. It's the Law with Attorney Larry Forman. Folks, today we're going to continue with Dr. Wolfe, with me in the courtroom, listening to this live. Let me tell you, folks, the jury was eating this up just like you are about to. Dr. Wolfe has conducted actual experiments with not only the arm, but a crash test dummy, the Hybrid 3, and Randy, crash test Randy. Both of those are going to be in this and the next video. There are two more Dr. Wolfe videos that are going to be premiering. This is one of them. I think this is number 3 out of all the Dr. Wolfe trial number 2 videos that we've done so far. There's going to be a total of 4. So if you don't, if this is just randomly you're finding in your algorithm, welcome to my channel. I am Attorney Larry Forman. I am a licensed practicing lawyer. I've been practicing law for 12 years. 99% of it is in criminal defense. I have 50 jury trials of my own under my belt, and I'm about to give you commentary on this beautiful piece that Jackson and Wolfe has created for this jury. Let me tell you, folks, it is magnificent. So without further ado, let's continue. Oh, and before I forget, if you have not checked out our members-only content, go check it out. Membership started 99 cents for an intern, and so you can check out all of the content that we have under the paywall, and most of it is going to be Diddy at this juncture.
And what is this angle?
This is, same test, just a different angle with the high-speed cameras in slow motion.
And this is at 15 miles per hour, correct?
15 miles an hour, correct.
Can you explain for the jurors, given the fact that this is suspended, does that have any impact?
This is the 3rd of 6 tests that they've conducted.
The ultimate analysis or reconstruction, rather than being attached to an ATT?
Effectively, mass is mass. So whether we have an arm that is suspended or attached, again, it's the arm is on a joint, right? So the arm can accelerate freely of the rest of the body, right? So if anything, even if it is attached to the body, there may actually be some additional force associated with that, just because there could be more mass attached to it.
Understood. Okay, let's go ahead and play this video.
Nothing. Nothing. Nothing happened to the tail light. Nothing.
What are we looking at in these 3 photographs?
So you're looking at, on the left, starting from left to right, just at contact, and then just after contact, and then post-contact. So as I mentioned, you can see that in this first one at contact, again, we don't have, the hand isn't and the arm aren't positioned as far out on the previous test, and the hand is in the area and the wrist of the lift gate taillight, with part of the forearm in contact with the quarter panel taillight. And as you saw in the video, essentially the arm just kind of moves out of the way of the vehicle as it comes by.
Understood. Next slide, please. What are we looking at here?
This is a photograph of the test vehicle subsequent to the test, depicting the, I'll say, lack of damage to the taillights.
Describe what you did see in terms of damage or lack of damage on the taillight.
There was no damage or fracturing to the taillights.
Describe the orientation of the arm in this particular test that you said was more of a side swipe. What was the orientation of the arm to the taillight in terms of how much of the arm touched the taillight? It's probably a clunky question, but I think you understand it.
I don't know if I could break it down into, I think just qualitatively speaking, like I said, it appears to be the hand and the wrist and kind of the lower portion of the forearm, maybe to the mid forearm or so.
So nothing on the upper arm?
Correct.
Making contact?
Correct. Nothing on the upper arm, yes.
Okay. If we can move past this slide and onto the next slide. What is this depicting?
So this is depicting the test taillights of the 15 mile per hour impact into the hybrid arm compared to that of the subject taillight.
Wow.
Was there any
Wow.
notable damage at all on the on the exemplar taillight following test C at 15 miles an hour?
The only thing there may have been was some very slight abrasions maybe to the plastic, but there certainly was no breaking or fracturing of the lens assembly.
Were you able to reach any opinions or conclusions as to whether the damage to the subject taillight is consistent with striking an arm at 15 miles per hour?
In this test, it was inconsistent.
Even in a side swipe?
Correct.
Doesn't he make
Was that-
Welcher appear like a complete and utter joke? Doesn't he? It's amazing.
Testing that we just saw done in accordance with scientific literature and generally accepted methodologies in the area of accident reconstruction?
Yes.
And remember, folks, when I was in the courtroom and Jackson was asking all of these questions, Bev was like doing everything but listening. The minute Brennan got up there, she was like, and then Jackson gets back up there and she's like, you see what I mean? She's trying to like, with using her body language and where her attention goes to try and like fake out the jury, like, ooh, this is what you need to be paying attention to. But trust me, folks, none of it is working. None. Jurors are not stupid. They're very intelligent people.
Is the damage to the right rear taillight of the subject vehicle consistent with striking John O'Keefe's arm at 15 miles per hour in a side swipe configuration?
It's inconsistent.
Do you hold that opinion to a reasonable degree of scientific certainty?
Yes.
Can we move to the next slide, please? What are we looking at in this graph?
So you're looking at the hand acceleration over time. So you can see that because, as you saw in the previous video and slides, the hand initially made contact with the taillight. So that gets accelerated up first. So we're getting peak accelerations in this test for the hand of about 254 Gs. And yes, over a period of about a little over 6 seconds or 6 milliseconds or so.
What was the arm or the appendage outfitted with to determine the data on this graph?
Right. So if you think back to the lab testing that we did, right, because we didn't have, and again, this is kind of why we did the testing incrementally as we went about it, but in the lab test, we didn't have a way to mount the liftgate assembly to also evaluate that interaction. So when we moved outside the full-scale vehicle testing, we had a liftgate taillight, obviously the full vehicle. So we also instrumented the hand with an accelerometer as well as the forearm. So we were able to measure the acceleration of both the hand and the forearm in these tests.
Can we move to the next slide, please? And what are we looking at here?
So this is the, the acceleration of the arm. So you can see that it reaches a peak around 5 milliseconds at about, looks like just under 200 Gs.
And the next slide. What's depicted in this graph?
So this is doing, again, the integration of the acceleration data for the hand to determine what speed did the hand get accelerated up to. And you can see that at the onset of this, it's at rest, it's impacted, and then gets up almost to 15 miles an hour in 4 milliseconds. Ultimately does reach at about 18 milliseconds, it does reach that 15, but it's nearly at 15 at contact.
Thank you. The next slide, please. And what is this delta V showing us?
So this is showing the change in speed of the arm. And again, because the hand was, and the wrist was more of the central impact to the ATD arm, this ultimately saw less acceleration, therefore less of a change in speed. So at around 6 milliseconds, well, roughly actually about 1 millisecond after it started to increase in acceleration, it's at about 5 miles per hour.
Is that reflected in the fact that the arm pivoted?
Yes,
spun?
there's some rotation going on, so it's not.
By the way, the reason Welcher didn't do any of this stuff is because had he done that, he would have disproved the government's theory of the case. That's why he couldn't do actual math and actual physics and actual experimentation. All he could do is a Blue Man Group paint transfer test that a child can do. And he got paid. I swear, his experiments were not worth $5 in value, of course. Now, he got paid, as we discussed, he got paid a bribe money for him to say what they need him to say, but it's not science. That's just bullcrap.
Translating or accelerating.
Understood. Can we move to the next slide, please? Test D. What was the speed that you undertook in test D as in Delta?
So this is a 29 mile per hour impact into the suspended hybrid arm.
We'll move to the next slide. What are we looking at in this series of photographs?
So on the left is my colleague, again, compressing the tail light while we install the upper tail, the liftgate tail light to, again, try to maintain that steady state temperature. Over here on the right is the thermal image of the tail light after the install. So the average temperature of this tail light during the test was approximately 17 degrees Fahrenheit.
Next slide, please. Staying with test D, what is this depicting?
This is a drone video showing a top-down perspective of the test with the Lexus starting on the left-hand part of the screen, accelerating in reverse into the suspended hybrid arm over here at the location of the forklift.
Okay. If we can watch this video, please. Do your next slides show, there you go, the suspended arm. What are we looking at here?
So this is a video camera that was positioned on top of the forklift looking down at the arm, so you'll see the vehicle move from bottom to top as this video plays.
By the way, Dr. Wolfe, what are the perp white lines that we see have predominated? I'm sorry, I was talking over that.
Sorry,
That's
I didn't.
okay. What are the purple and white lines that we see?
So those are guidelines to help. I will note that this is kind of like a needle in a haystack. It's very hard to hit this small of a target. So just served as a guideline to reference as we're accelerating rearward into this.
Is this in real time?
This is in real time, yes.
What's the speed that the vehicle is entering the frame at?
29 miles per hour.
Thank you. What happened to the arm in terms of its suspension?
It actually gets ripped off from the mounting location.
Is there a reason you believe physically that that arm was ripped off from the suspension tethers?
Well, certainly there was enough force to break the tie lines to the forklift.
Was there a test value of those tie lines?
I think they were rated at 150 pounds.
What does that suggest in terms of the force that was exerted? Just before we get to the other testing, the force that was exerted on the arms to tear off the tie lines.
Well, it indicates that the arm saw at least 150 pounds of force.
Okay. Next slide, please. What are we looking at in this video?
So this is going to be a slow motion video. You'll see the Lexus accelerate in reverse, making contact with the arm. And again, this is the 29 mile per hour impact test.
Okay. Next slide, please. And what is this?
This is a video, a high-speed video, so slow motion of test D at 29 miles per hour into the ATD arm that is suspended. So you'll see the Lexus enter the frame from the right and impact the arm.
Okay. Was this strike more reflective of what you were attempting to replicate?
Yes, this was a more central impact to the arm, yes.
Thank you. Next slide, please. And what is this?
You know, I could never figure out why did they specifically choose these numbers. Like 10 kind of makes sense, but then 17, then they do 24 and 29. Like, why are these odd numbers? Why not use like round numbers, like 10, 20, 30? I think I just figured it out. Maybe you have too, I don't know. Let me know in the comments below if you have a theory, and don't forget to like this video while you're on your way down, and of course subscribe if you haven't already, so you get more of this content. Think about it. If you do round numbers like 10, 20, 30 miles per hour, you are really limiting yourself. It looks very like generic. Like, oh, this is a test at 10, this is a test at 20, this is a test at 30. We could have done a test at 40. We chose not to. Why? Because there is no way in ever living hell that Karen was traveling 40 miles an hour in reverse in a snowstorm. Okay, let's be honest. 29 is already impossible. Even 10 would be hard. But they're using very, very odd numbers to show that this was an extremely unique experiment that has never been done before, and chances are will never be done ever again. Maybe in the history of humankind. Because to allege that he was hit by a car is just, like I said, it's beyond the pale. It's just absolutely absurd, ridiculous, and meaningless.
So this is a high-speed or slow-motion video depicting the test D at 29 miles per hour, just a different perspective than the previous video.
Okay.
Look at the lift gate light. It obliterated the high heaven. And none of that happened in John O'Keefe's case? How's that possible?
Next slide.
How's that possible? It's not possible.
And what are we looking at here?
So this is extracted frames from the high-speed video. So starting out left to right, this is roughly at first contact with the majority of the hand, well, the hand and majority of the forearm in contact with the liftgate taillight, with a portion of the elbow in contact with the quarter panel taillight.
Can I stop you right there on that far left frame? Does that fairly replicate what you were attempting to approximate in terms of the orientation of the arm versus the taillight?
Yes, more of a central impact compared to that first test at 15, yes.
Is that more or less consistent with what you saw in Dr. Welcher's test, where he had his arm in that still shot associated with the geometry of the car?
Sustained.
And remember, folks, every time that Jackson said Welcher and there was an objection, at least 3 jurors that I can remember off the top of my head, one of them would like roll her eyes, the other would just look frustrated, and the third one was also like very upset, very visibly upset. Like, I want to hear the answer. Like, literally, you can tell they're just like, can we just hear the answer? Like, if they could speak, you know, because obviously they're not allowed to communicate, but if they could, they'd just be like, can we just hear this, please? Like, no, this is courtroom procedure. But why? Because it's not, and everybody knows it.
Is this consistent with what you were trying to replicate after your review of Dr. Welcher's report?
Yes.
Sustained. Can I ask you differently?
It was so
What
annoying.
were you trying to replicate?
For
Or
everybody.
why were you trying to replicate this at the 29 mile an hour test?
I think even Brennan was embarrassed that he has to keep objecting to these meaningless objections that mean nothing.
In this particular orientation?
We were trying to see, based upon Dr. Welcher's orientation, what happens to the arm in terms of the acceleration and the damage to the taillight at that configuration at contact.
Okay, next slide, please.
Look
What are
at
we
that.
looking at?
Look at that.
So this is a photograph depicting the damage to the liftgate taillight as well as the quarter panel taillight.
And what do you note in terms of that damage?
Destroyed.
So on the liftgate taillight, a significant portion of that thick 5mm red outer lens is fractured and broken off. The underlying diffusers are still in place. There was a small crack in, I believe it was the upper diffuser here. The quarter panel taillight had the clear section damaged with the outer lens missing, along with some fragments from the outer portion of the red part of the lens.
Next slide, please. What are we looking at in this slide?
So this is another photograph depicting the quarter panel taillight. As I indicated, there is portions of the red lens cover missing. The interior diffusers remained largely intact in this test.
Next slide.
So basically what you're telling us, Dr. Wolfe, is that Karen must have been going 50 miles an hour in reverse, and she just hit John so perfectly that the entirety of the assembly just completely exploded, but everything else stayed perfectly intact. Do you see how insanely bonkers the government's theory begins to sound like when you use math, physics, and real experimentation? So your disassembling of the taillight, Proctor and Buchanan, in the Sally port is officially debunked. Thank you, Dr. Wolfe.
What is this side-by-side depicting?
This is showing the results of the 29-mile-per-hour impact test to the test vehicle compared to that of the subject taillight.
Given that orientation of test D, were you able to reach any opinions or conclusions as to whether or not the damage to the subject taillight is consistent with striking an arm at 29 miles per hour?
It was inconsistent.
What's the basis for that opinion, Dr. Wolfe?
The results of this test.
And was that testing conducted in accordance with the scientific literature and generally accepted methodologies in the field of accident reconstruction?
Yes.
Is the damage to the right rear taillight consistent with striking John O'Keefe's arm at 29 miles per hour? When I say the right rear taillight, I mean of the subject vehicle.
Yeah.
Sustained as to that.
It's inconsistent.
With regard to your opinion concerning whether the subject taillight is consistent with striking an arm at 29 miles per hour, do you hold that opinion to a reasonable degree of scientific certainty?
Yes.
Next slide, please.
And what is that opinion? I always wonder, why didn't he ask that
Depicted
question?
in this graph.
It would be
So this is
objective to,
looking at the acceleration of the hand in the 29-mile-per-hour impact test with peak accelerations close to 800 Gs at 2 milliseconds.
Not surprising.
Next slide, please. What are we looking at in this graph?
This is the acceleration of the arm, reaching peak acceleration of about 500 Gs.
You indicated 800 Gs in the last graph. What's the difference? What's the difference in the delta between the 500 and the 800?
Between the hand and the arm?
Understood. Which one suffered or was subject to 800 Gs?
That would be the hand.
And which one was subject to the 500 Gs?
That would be the arm.
Next slide, please. What are we looking at in this graph?
So this is looking at the change in speed. So what speed did the hand get up to as a result of the impact? So we can see that in about 3 milliseconds.
Don't you just love how this whole setup is by Dr. Wolfe? So this is what we did. We took the taillight, we put it in a freezer, we dry iced it, we made sure to keep the conditions for as long as possible, as accurate as possible. Here's my math, here are my numbers, here's what we saw, here's the high-speed camera, here's the low-speed camera, here's the regular speed, here's the slow motion, and here's what happened, this is what it looked like, here we are comparing it to the subject tail. That's called science! Science! The jury loved it. They loved it. I wish I was in the room to watch their reactions and to watch their faces when Welcher was testifying. Because there were several that were quite emotive on that jury. And like I told you, I locked eyes with one of them because we were both like, what the hell is Brendan talking about during the cross-examination, which we're not going to cover. But I will say this. When they were listening to Welcher, I guarantee that they were going like, this is fishy, this is suspect. This is real science. Real science.
Seconds, the arm is moving nearly at almost 25 miles per hour. And then a little bit later, again, this is still very quick in time, at about 14 milliseconds, it's at about 30 miles per hour.
Next slide, please. What's depicted in this graph?
So this is looking at the change in speed of the arm as a result of the contact. So starting here at about 2 milliseconds, the arm accelerates up to, by 8 milliseconds, we're at about 35 miles per hour. And this, you may be wondering, why are we getting more speed than what the input was? And that's because you get a phenomenon known as restitution. Basically, there's an elastic collision between the two where you can get almost a bouncing effect. So when you have something that weighs 6,000 pounds striking something that's much, much lighter than that, it can actually cause it to accelerate up to a greater velocity than the impact speed.
Next slide, please.
All right. The last two tests where they actually used crash test dummies, the Hybrid 3 and the Randy, we are going to do in the next video. So once again, don't forget to like this video, comment below, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Also, if you're so inclined, I am releasing Diddy videos that you have to have a membership for. Memberships start at 99 cents a month, and they go all the way up to $49.99 a month if you want to be a Supreme Court justice on my channel. Or if you are just happy with being an intern, 99 cents is all you need in order to watch my videos on the Sean Combs, aka P. Diddy trial that's happening in New York. Also, right now as we speak, probably coming to a close in a couple of weeks here. I believe they said it's going to go about 6 weeks, so end of June, I imagine. I have some Cassie Ventura testimony that I will be releasing in the coming days if they haven't been released already. The openings of both the prosecution and the defense have been uploaded. It's a little difficult because it's federal court. We don't actually have video, so I'm relying on other sources such as Law and Crime. They do AI-generated videos of the transcripts. What they do is they take the transcripts from the trial, they feed it into AI. They have a AI production team that makes it look like you're sitting in the courtroom, which is actually really freaking cool. And I have about 4 videos that are lined up. All of Cassie Ventura's testimony, who was with Diddy for years and years and years and years. Her testimony is enormous, and she has already testified, and her videos are going to premiere on my channel over the next few weeks. And then Kid Cudi. Thank you again. Shout out to Law and Crime for providing the Kid Cudi testimony, and I will be premiering that on my channel in the coming weeks before the case concludes. So, I wanted to thank you all for watching. I wanted to thank you all for coming. I hope you enjoyed this content. We have one last Dr.Wolfe video to do, and the jury, I imagine, is already in deliberations by the time this video premieres, so I cannot wait to listen to them resuming their deliberations on Monday, June 16th, I think it's going to be. And I will see you all in the next video, which probably will be the conclusion of Dr. Wolfe, unless I squeeze something else in. But this is the fun one. This is the one where they actually use the crash test dummies. One of them is going to be on a hinge, and the next one is full. This is test F, full blown impact. I'll see you there, folks. Bye.